about the stakeholders they wanted, the communities they thought we would involve, how they felt the appointments process should go. We were happy to consult them. We're happy to be open, transparent, and engaging throughout the process.
Honourable member for Carleton.
They tried to raise taxes on health and dental benefits, but we stopped them. They tried to raise taxes on people with autism and diabetes, but we stopped them. They're trying to raise taxes on our family farmers and local businesses, and we continue to stop them. Will the Prime Minister admit that he's just putting these tax increases targeted at vulnerable people on hold, and that he'll try to bring them back in if, God forbid, he gets another chance after the next election?
Right. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we lowered taxes on the middle class and raised them on the wealthiest 1%, and they tried to stop us. We brought in a Canada Child benefit that gives more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families and lifts hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, and they tried to stop us. We moved forward in increasing the guaranteed income supplement for our most vulnerable elderly seniors, and they tried to stop us. And we moved forward on strengthening the CPP for future generations. They tried to stop us.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Now let's talk about their real record. Despite their promises, the wealthiest 1% in Canada are paying $1 billion less in taxes. Despite their promises, the middle class, 87% of them, are paying higher taxes. Despite their promises, that millionaire, the Prime Minister, continues to get child care benefits in the form of taxpayer-funded nanny services. And their wealthiest friends continue to stash away their money in tax havens that this government has done nothing to address. When will they admit that this is a government by the rich, of the rich, and for the rich?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, in their pursuit of endless partisanship, the Conservatives follow think tanks that do not include the whole picture. The stats they're quoting now don't actually include the Canada Child benefit, and I can understand why, because they campaigned against our Canada Child benefit, which gave more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families and lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, because they wanted to continue with their benefits that send child benefit checks to millionaire families. I don't think that's fair. Canadians didn't think that's fair, and that's why we're delivering on what we committed to Canadians to do.
Honourable member for Carleton.
They do continue to deliver child care benefits to that millionaire in the form of taxpayer-funded nannies, but beyond that, he criticizes the source I use for statistics. He says it's a think tank. Actually, it's his own finance department, which says that the wealthiest 1% is paying $1 billion less under this government. No new taxes for his trust fund, no new taxes for Morneau Chappelle, no new taxes for his fundraising chair, just more taxes for the working people who pay the bills in this country. Why?
Right. Honourable Prime Minister.
See, one can't help but feel bad for the Conservatives. They're resorting to flailing around with personal attacks because we have created over 441,000 new jobs over these past 12 months. That's an 18-year record for the Canadian government, Mr. Speaker. We are delivering the fastest growth rate in the G7. We are delivering on low unemployment and benefits to Canadians that are making a real and tangible difference in their lives. All they have left is groundless personal attacks.
Well, member for Carleton.
Facts from his own finance department, and he considers it a terrible personal attack against him. Maybe he should take that up with the finance department. But when government gets big, we know who pays more. It's the working class. It wasn't Morneau Chappelle that paid higher taxes. It hasn't been his fundraising chair. It hasn't been him. In fact, we know that the wealthiest 1% pays $1 billion less. Yes, that is a record to cry about, Mr. Speaker. But the reality is that when government gets bigger, the working class pays more. When are they going to put an end to that injustice?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the first thing we did was lower taxes for the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1%. And this summer, when we said we were going to be lowering taxes for small businesses and making sure that wealthy Canadians are no longer encouraged to use Canadian-controlled private corporations to pay lower tax rates than middle-class Canadians, these Conservatives went on the warpath, scared everyone across the country, and are now sheepish that we are lowering taxes on small businesses as of January 1st, and they can do nothing but give personal attacks.
Honourable Member for Berthier-Baskin-Angers. Mr. Speaker, yesterday in committee, the Liberals nominee for Ethics Commissioner didn't want to confirm if he would continue the investigation into the Prime Minister's trip to the Aga Khan's Island, as well, and the Minister of Finance with respect to C-27. These investigations are important for Canadians and for our democracies. But this isn't clear to the Liberals. Do the Liberals think that commissioners should follow and continue the investigations begun by their predecessors? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, all parliamentarians expect that officers of Parliament fulfill their roles with integrity and in a fact-based manner, and that's what the Commissioner said he would do. He's not going to pursue partisan interests. He will act in a way that is based on facts. He will assume his responsibilities. This is what we expect. We don't expect the facile partisanship of our adversaries.
Mr. Speaker, is this Prime Minister trying to pretend that his selection process is not partisan? Canadians want the investigations into both the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to be completed and reported. And in committee yesterday, the government's nominee refused to commit to do so. These investigations are important for our democracy, and the Liberals must be held to account. Simple question. Do the Liberals not agree that investigations already started need to continue under the new Commissioner, or do they believe they're above the law?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I think the question is whether or not parliamentarians and Canadians expect officers of Parliament to fulfill their duties with integrity and with responsibility and based on the facts. That is exactly what the Commissioner testified to yesterday. That is what we all expect from any agent of Parliament, to do their job responsibly above the petty partisanship that so often animates this particular House.
Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday the Minister of Finance met with his counterparts from across the country to work collaboratively and take action that is in the interest of all Canadians to strengthen the middle class and to help those working hard to join it. As a result, a number of agreements were reached, including a coordinated approach on the cannabis excise framework. Can the Prime Minister inform the House on the cannabis agreement and how it benefits provinces, territories and municipalities?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Newmarket Aurora for his question. Cities and towns across the country are among our most important partners in our effort to legalize and strictly regulate access to cannabis. That's why we increased what we are providing to provinces and territories to 75% of collected excise tax from cannabis, so that municipalities can get the resources they need to keep cannabis away from kids and profits out of the hands of criminals. This agreement will be reviewed within 6 months of legalization to confirm that communities, that cities and towns are well supported by the provinces.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, in the announcement made today by the Minister of Finance, there is still one very troubling aspect of these small business changes, and it's this. Mr. Speaker, you may not know this, but if you're a married woman in a family business, you will now have to prove that you should receive a dividend from that company. If you're a divorced woman, however, it is assumed you will receive that dividend from the same company. So, Mr. Speaker, from one feminist to another, how is that fair?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on On January 1st, we are lowering small business taxes for 100% of small businesses across this country. There are 3% of small businesses, of Canada-controlled private corporations, that use income sprinkling, and of that 3%, many will be able to continue under recently clarified rules that apply. Those who are trying to use income sprinkling as a way of avoiding paying their fair share of taxes no longer will be able to. That is what Canadians expect of this government when we make the tax system fair, and that's what we're delivering on.
Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, I've been accused on the other side of not understanding arithmetic, so I think I'll help the Prime Minister on this one. 3% of small businesses is 45,000 small businesses in this country who in the next 2.5 weeks will have to understand these rule changes and then implement corporate structure changes to their own businesses in order to be able to be on the right side of the CRA. And then the CRA will test to determine if it's reasonable what they're doing. This does not help anyone in this country. Will they withdraw these tax rules?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on January 1st, small businesses will be paying lower taxes because we are dropping the small business tax rate. For those Canadian-controlled private corporations that do use income sprinkling, they will have the entirety of 2018 to determine how to give out dividends, and then they will have a few more months after that to prepare their taxes. We are giving plenty of time to businesses to ensure that they are able to continue to do things that matter to their businesses.
Alors, l'honorable député de Richmond.
The honourable member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the record of our finance minister. He's bringing in a tax reform that will tax